is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor podcast episode. Today's amazing guest, David Meltzer. What's going on, my man?
I am excited to be here. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is frequency. I mean, brand.
Yes. Before we get started, I know you got a lot going on. Where can people learn more about you?
You know, you got to remember my name, David Meltzer. So at David Meltzer on LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. My website is my first initial last name, D Meltzer. That's because the guy in here in Newport Beach that owns David Meltzer won't give it to me. But David Meltzer or D Meltzer, that's the best place.
And you have a text? You got a text number?
Yes, sir. 949-298-2905. Everybody's welcome to text me. I got a huge community via text. So if you want to know where I'm doing meetups, where I'm speaking, where you can find me, 949-298-2905.
Beautiful. Let's get into it. So, personal branding. What does it mean to you as a man who's come from, ups and downs, and now here you are in your 50s, absolutely crushing it, and folks are like, whoa, look at this dude.
Yeah, it was understanding how, when I ran Lee Steinberg, how those brands were made. The Warren Moons of the world, the Troy Aikmans of the world, the Vander Holyfields, the Steve Youngs, in a traditional sense. And what does not change is quality content and consistency, right? These are the two things that people aren't willing to face. And they understand, they're like, how the heck does a 52-year-old middle-aged man get so popular and brand himself when I was literally for 2 decades known as Lee Steinberg's guy or Warren Moon's partner? No, I don't think people knew my first name. And 3 years ago, I said, you know what, there's no better opportunity. I knew I had quality content. I have really good ideas because I have had up and downs. I've been educated both academically and street smart wise. So I have a lot of great lessons and a lot of great stories. So one, I made sure I had quality content. I started writing books, testing it out on stages, talking to people, business coaching one-on-one, seeing what impact I could have individually. When I started speaking, I went to 100 stages, most of them unpaid, just to see the impact I could have and have that consistency of quality content. Once I realized that I had quality content that moved people, that provided value, then I had to figure out how to be consistent on the different platforms, right? And I came up with 4 things that I realized. One, there's a certain way to capture the quality content. There's a certain way to modify it. There's a certain way to amplify it. And then there's a certain way, which most people don't even look at, but I look at it because I'm a long thinker, is how to perpetuate it, right? I had the vision, I had a 20-year plan where I wanted to move 2 people my first year. That was it. I wanted to really focus in on it. I wanted to make sure there was 2 people out there that loved Dave Meltzer, that every year of their life would get 2 more people to love Dave Meltzer. And I knew that in 20 years, 2 people doing that every year becomes 2 million people. And I wasn't in a hurry, but I just focused in on the quality of content. So when we look at consistency, deals with consistent being able to capture, modify, amplify, and perpetuate. Now let's talk about the quality content. How do you know that you have quality content? 3 things in branding it. 1, the power of your signal. Look, people buy on emotion for logical reasons. If your frequency or signal of your content is not moving people, then keep practicing, right? It's just like golf, right? If you're hitting out of bounds, you're going to keep practicing until you hit it in bounds. Well, if you're not connecting to people, then or finding the right frequency to connect with people, then keep practicing until you do. But once you do, realize that now you can broaden the spectrum. So you know the strength of your signal. Now broaden your spectrum. Start with women 30 years old that are divorced and move to women 30 to 50 years old that are divorced, then move to women 15 to 55, and then move to men, and it keeps growing. The advantage that I saw 3 years ago is that most people don't understand even today the opportunity that exists in personal branding. Never before could you reach 4.2 billion people literally for free, 4.2 billion people and growing if you have 2 things: quality content and consistency. The difficult thing about 4.2 billion people, if you're not consistent, most people will never see it. And you've got to be there multiple times a day, and all of the content has to be quality content. And pretty soon that repetition, most people, even my mentor, co-mentor, and friend, Gary Vaynerchuk, most people will tell me, I didn't like Gary when I first saw the video. But you know what? He grew on me. Why? Because he was consistent. I grew on people too as well. I'm like moss, it's just consistently, and all of a sudden you start getting, it's like, I didn't really get what this guy was saying. And then, the seed was watered. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a genius. And now they're addicted to me. That's what you have to do. So you have strength of signal with the quality of content. Then the spectrum keeps widening. The last thing is clarity of message. One of the difficulties of a frequency or a brand is how, especially a personal brand, because we're much more complex than Old Spice, right? Old Spice, that's a frequency. It's a clear message of what Old Spice does, what it is. Well, as human beings, we have multiple personalities, multiple personality traits. We have 3 different areas of consciousness. We have what we think, say, and do is one consciousness. Then we have what we believe, which is the subconsciousness. Then we have a quantum memory, which is our unconsciousness, personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions that we're not even aware of, but other people pick up on. So we always have to hone the clarity of our message, the communication that we're having. One of the difficulties that I have is that I study every day. I'm an expansive personality. I love to improve myself. I'm in this enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. Well, the difficulty of that is if I'm creating content that's talking about, quantum memories and, this unconscious competency, well, I have to make sure that I'm still creating a message about, look, gratitude gives you perspective. Say thank you before you go to bed and when you wake up, which is one of the frequencies that built my brand. Just teaching people to say thank you before they go to bed and when they wake up changes their life. And you have to keep not only expanding, but regenerating and refocusing it on the basics as well. So you're a professor teaching kindergarten through, as you advance, PhD level courses, and you now have to be consistent and have quality content for each grade level.
Right. So my question to you is, relevancy is very, very important when it comes to creating content. It's very easy to get sucked in by the algorithm trap, where now you start to create content just because you want to get more views and engagement and reach. So my question to you is, how do you take a piece of content and say, this is not good and this is good? I want you to chop this up and put this out.
That is a great thing. And it's something that I've learned. So number one, there's too many people out there that are stuck in the realm. And some of them are successful right now and they're unhappy because, they're doing spoofs or music, little cute things. Look, it's going to die out and it's not a fulfilling thing. I don't look at analytics. I don't look literally at any of that stuff. I don't care what I couldn't tell you how many followers I have, to be honest. But I know how many ambassadors I have. I know how many people are reaching out to me every day to be impacted by me. I know how many coaching clients are people asking me to coach or to advise or consult or sit on their boards or be on their TV shows. I know that's coming in. I don't care who follows me. But listen to me. The key, and I'm a guy who gives everything for free. You got to have test accounts. Like the only algorithm I look at is I literally post everything all over the place. I have Team Meltzer test accounts. I got test accounts. And then whatever seems to resonate, and sometimes I have no idea what's going to work. I will look at something, and I have different editors too, just so you know, that have different vibrations. So, I got a kid that is like a TikTok type of guy, like that's the way he sees things. And then I have like the world thought leader, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor person in here. And then I have like the pure sports person, that's like Rich Eisen, he sees things that way. Well, I'm posting stuff, and I love the fact that sometimes I post something and go like, that may be the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That's not what I meant by that or whatever. And we'll post it on a test account and it will just blow up. Or here's another thing to realize about the perpetual nature of content. I'm repurposing a lot of things because I do so much content. I'll repurpose. I just did the Howard Behar, the president of Starbucks, right? Responsible for scaling 1,000 stores of Starbucks. And it was one of my best pieces of content 3 years ago, right? The guy's incredible. I was extracting knowledge, wisdom, not just knowledge, like old school 80-year-old billionaire wisdom. That stuff is not on the internet. And, it did okay. It helped build my brand. I re-edited it, made it a little, the red, now I know, use red or say the word Netflix or other tricks that we learned just from testing. Man, all of a sudden within minutes, it had like thousands and thousands of, likes. It works. So I think the internet's, I had Fat Jewish on my podcast this week. He was killing it. He said, Dave, you just got to realize the internet's a liar. I subscribe to that. Look, the only one thing that's going to teach you what works, and that's put it up there, have multiple accounts, take what is really working and put it to your main account so everybody can love it.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that you got to put out the content that's relevant to your offer and relevant to the ideal customer that wants to buy that offer. And forget about the likes, forget about the views. Yeah. Because you can get 15 views on something that's super educational. One person buys it, that's a win. You can get 100,000 views on something, nobody buys it. That's a big lose to me. So,
like for me, I'm in there. Like for me, like if 1 million kids love my stuff, I'm glad I'm planting seeds on trees I'll never sit under. But if one billionaire calls me and says, Dave, I want to pay you 50 grand a month to be a business advisor of mine, that's a big win for me. And it takes a lot of kids to get to $50,000 of revenue a month.
It does. No, it does. It does. So let's get into accessibility, because you're a big guy on accessibility. Like, your discipline is very, very impressive. And I got to tell you, your team, super responsive. I felt like I was at a Ritz-Carlton.
Good.
Right? So I just wanted to give you that insight.
Yeah, we teach values here. That's why.
Yeah, I love it. So accessibility, I see a lot of influencers out there. I see a lot of these big gurus saying it's all about posturing. It's all about positioning. Don't look like you're super available, because that could be bad, especially if you're, trying to position yourself as an expert. You don't want to be too available. Yeah, look at your face.
Flip off the camera. If I could, I would flip off the camera. I hate that so much.
Have you heard that though?
Oh, yeah, I see it. Not to use names, I know one of the guys on Shark Tank that literally, me and Gary were speaking at the same event he was. And Gary's very accessible like me, right? He'll take on as much as he can. And we both believe in productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. That's the Meltzer kaleidoscope, I call it. This guy, well-known guy on Shark Tank, he had 3 different rooms. He had, had to have a specified, green M&Ms with 6 bottles of tequila in his room. And then he had 2 bodyguards with him at the same party Gary and I are at. And literally it was like people were coming up saying, can I ask, asking for help or a question or a picture, something gracious, right? And the bodyguard's like, no, Mr. So-and-so cannot speak with you. And Gary and I are like literally just sitting there signing books, talking and giving advice, 50 people around us, learning and sharing with us. And all we kept hearing is, that guy's a jerk. You guys are awesome. Be kind to your future self. Do good deeds. If you're not taking care of the people that need help, someday you're going to need help. And there's going to be nobody around. And that's what made Gary V's brand, is his gratitude towards everyone. And I will tell you, I study my calendar every day for what's planned in person, on the phone, via email and media, radio, print, TV, and social media. I plan the white space of my calendar, study it every day, and I study sleep every day. The 3 different portions of my calendar that are the 8, 8, and 8, I call it, all of it's under the lens of how much value I can provide and how accessible I am with a lens of gratitude. I call it the Meltzer kaleidoscope. If you're not looking at how accessible you are and how you're accessing what you want, you are not getting the flow of the universe of how abundance works, how you make room for what you want so you can allow it to come through you for others so more can come through you. This is an expansive universe. 99% of the universe is black matter. That means it has room to expand. You are an expanding being. The universe expands. If you're not expanding, meaning being gracious and literally abundant, you're being scarce, and somehow your ego-based consciousness needs to separate you from others, you're a fool. And that's why I wanted to flip off the camera.
I love your energy, dude. Your vibration is at a completely different level. So here's my last question, because I know you got a 20-minute stop. So my last question is, how does David Meltzer want to be remembered 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now?
That's easy, man. I am on a serious mission to impact over 1 billion people to be happy. So I'm looking for 1,000 people like you that I know have the power to impact 1,000 people to impact 1,000 people. 1,000 times 1,000's a million times 1,000's a billion. It's not a big ask of me to ask you, hey, keep teaching people this stuff to be happy and teach. I'm counting on you to reach 1,000 people, to reach 1,000. I'll step on a stage or even ask you, do you believe Dave Meltzer in the next 50 years, like you said, can impact 1,000 people like yourself that will impact 1,000 people to impact 1,000 people to be happy? Mathematically, do you think that's realistic? And most people like you would be like, I think Dave Meltzer can do that in the next 50 years. That's 20 people a year. That's not that many people. He can do this. Now, if I asked you, do you think Dave Meltzer can be the richest man on earth? You'd have your doubts, because Dave Meltzer has his doubts, which is incredible, because I think my legacy, and I'm going to do it, when I create a collective consciousness, imagine the legacy of David Meltzer, the happiness king. Right? No one's going to remember who the richest man, nobody knows 105 years who the richest man on earth was.
It's so true. I like there's the compounding effect there. There's chunking it down and creating small bite-sized goals to go after, and then boom, it blows up. So a lot of value here.
Most people, if I can leave this message on branding, look, you got to work smart and hard. Everybody knows that. But the advantage you can have, think and work long. I have a 20-year plan, right? That 2 ambassador to 2 ambassador equals 2 million in 20 years. To impact 1 billion people, I have a 50-year plan, right? So think long and strong, and you'll get there every day with these you listed it out, how I do it day by day, but I also put it within the context as I'm thinking long. I'm not attaching my emotions to some short-term goal. I'm attaching my emotions to the enjoyment of my daily activities. Activity I get paid for, activity I don't. Being productive, accessible, and gracious.
I love it. There you have it, guys. David Meltzer, quick 20 on personal branding and content creation. My man, thanks again for coming on.
Anytime. I'll see you in New York.
Take care, brother.
You too.